I'm gonna get in one of these cheers today.
Sure you are.
Today's the day. All right, what is up, Pickleheads? We're super excited to have you guys today. Today we're going to be talking about when to drop and when to drive on a third shot. I feel like a lot of questions that I've been receiving lately, and just in general, a lot of the time, what we'll be asked about is, hey, do a video on when to drop and when to drive. So today we are making your dreams come true. We're going to talk about certain situations in which you should drive and certain situations in which you should drop, and then certain situations where you just go with your gut. And so we're super excited to talk with you guys about it today. And Spencer's going to get us started.
Yeah, before we do that, okay, I got to talk about something. I didn't tell you about this, but anyway, yes, I'm sponsored by Gearbox, but it's not like some big paid sponsorship or anything. They didn't ask me to do this. In fact, they asked me not to share anything about this, so I can only share a little bit. But they sent me their new paddle that hasn't come out yet. It's supposed to come out on October 16th. I'll give you a quick peek, even though I'm not supposed to. This is the dopest paddle that I've played with, and you could ask Austin. I've played with more paddles than anyone you can think of because I like to switch it up. I always think it's the paddle's fault, blah, blah, blah.
Except for Dave Dunkley. Dave's got you beat.
But this paddle has the perfect amount of control, the perfect amount of power, incredible amount of spin. My dink volleys out of the air, it like grabs the ball. It's like grabbing the ball and placing it over the net.
Wow.
I don't know how it's legal, but I'm loving it. Legit paddle. Anyway, I think he said it comes out on October 16th. I'm not supposed to put anything on social media until like after October 10th. But if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, you should peek real quick on YouTube. If you're not, but here it is right here. That's all I can show, but it is a dope.
I want to see
a dope paddle.
How thick is it? I love it. Just show us how thick it is. Show us a side view.
Again, I don't want to get in trouble, but it's legit. There's the thickness.
That wasn't very thick, was it?
So,
how thick is that?
In a later episode, I'll talk about the thickness. I'll talk about how it's put together. Gearbox they do things right. I mean, I bet if I started beating this thing with a hammer, it would never break. They build things to last. So anyway, it's a really cool paddle, not just because I'm sponsored by them, but it's a real fun paddle. I hope everyone can get a chance to play with it.
Yeah, I've heard from people that have tested it out that it's unreal. Like I've heard that it's one of the greatest paddles of all time. And
I love it.
That's just from what I've heard from people that aren't even associated with Gearbox. So I want to try it. I think it sounds awesome to try. I'm obviously now a Selkirk guy, and they are coming out with the new Control Air, and I guess Jack Sock's been using it.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of funny, like you're not supposed to use it, but he used it at a match. It was like a charity match. It was a charity match with Annalie Waters and Federico Stackford and maybe Catherine Parento. But he busted it out, and it's pretty much this Power Air in a different shape, but it's thicker. Mine comes tomorrow, so it would have been cool if I had it for the pod, and I could have done a little flash like you did too. But from what I've heard about both of these paddles is that they're both absolutely baller. From everybody that's used them, has really, really loved them. People have ranked your Gearbox number 1 on their list. If they had a list of 1 and 10, they've ranked it number 1. And then they've done the same with this. They've ranked it within their top 5. The new Control, the one that's coming out.
Sick. So when you come down this weekend, you can try mine and I'll try yours.
Yeah.
We'll see how they play. And on that note, I feel like a lot of people talk about paddles and like maybe not so much what paddle is right for you, but I know there are some out there that talk about that. If you guys ever have questions, you can always shoot us a DM on Instagram. We'd be happy to help you select a paddle. Maybe you're a beginner. maybe you're not. Maybe you're just trying to figure out, you don't like the paddle that you have. You're trying to figure out what would be best for you, with your play style and your skill level, blah, blah, blah. Austin and I can help you do that even over DM, at least give you a good general idea and suggest a few different paddles for you. So anyway, pumped about this paddle. Yeah, I'd like to try Selkirk's new paddle too. It'd be cool.
Yeah, they look good.
Okay, when to drop versus when to drive. So as a general rule, I feel like it should always be a general rule because there are different nuances, different scenarios, different skill levels. But as a general rule, Austin posted recently, this is kind of the rule that I learned as well. If the ball is high, you have more of a green light to drive. If the ball is low, then you have more of a green light to drop. A lower ball is tougher to drive, generally speaking, and a higher ball is easier to drive, generally speaking. But let's go into detail with that, Os. Maybe talk about the drive first. We could talk about why you would drive a high ball instead of drop it. And then we'll get into the drop. But I think there's quite a few things to talk about in relation to the drive first.
Yeah, so in relation to the drive, just a saying that I came up with as I was creating the video. It's super cheesy and corny, but it helps you to at least remember so that you can build muscle memory, is if it's high, don't be shy. Okay. It's cringy even saying it, but it's a good saying I came up with. Okay. And I'm taking full credit. I don't mind it. When it goes big, I was thinking if it's high, let it fly. Then I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense because then people are going to they would maybe think whiff the ball because that's what happens when it's above shoulder height. So if it's high, don't be shy, swing away. So with the drive, if someone returns short and high, so it has to be short in the court and high, that's when you would want to drive the ball. If it's short and low, then you would want to not drive the ball because if it's low and you drive that ball, you can only hit up from there. So if you're hitting up, you're going to hit to your opponent's strike zone, you're going to hit the ball long, or you're going to aim too low and hit the net. It's going to be very inconsistent. So if it's high and short in the court, that's when it's time to absolutely drive the ball.
Yeah, and I think another reason for that is because your opponent is closer to you and their reaction time is a lot less when it's short in the court. I hate Austin's drive. If I'm playing on the opposite end,
thank you.
should I say? Oh man, somebody told Austin something about his drive a few months back.
Yes, say it. That's funny.
Maybe you should say it because I'm trying to remember how it was said. Yeah, go ahead.
It's Matt Garcia. He's a great guy. He has an Instagram page, Blind Squirrel, and he does tournaments every once in a while, and he does clinics and stuff. Anyways, great guy, super funny. But we were playing together a rec game, and he said to me, Austin, why are you dropping every ball, dude? You do understand that when you drive, people's buttholes pucker up.
And then, no, he said people's buttholes pucker up so much that you couldn't hammer in a well-oiled nail or something like that.
That's what he said. He said it after a pause. Like he said it after. He was like, "Yeah, dude. Like sorry. Honestly, I don't even think you could fit a." But he was mad at me because I was dropping every shot, and he's like, that's just not your game. Which I think is something that we're going to talk about later. That's one of the points. Is that, we'll talk about it later. But you only want to play to your strong suit. So like for me, my strong suit's my drive. I have a decent drop, but I feel like I can set up a better drop a lot of the time with my drive. But other players maybe don't have the best drive. But I don't want to jump the gun.
Yeah, so just the fact that your opponent is closer to you gives them less reaction time. And like I was saying, if you're hitting to me, Oz, I can't stand it because that ball's coming real fast. If I hit a ball short, I'm ready because I know it's going to come. but maybe a little bit scared at the same time. And so if you were to drop it in that situation and instead of taking advantage of the drive, I would be happy as your opponent, right? So again, it's a general rule. Maybe you don't want to do it every single time so that they're ready every time, but I do like that as a general rule.
Something about the drive that I want to emphasize is I don't want you guys to go away from this and be like, okay, I need to hit my drives as hard as I can.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm teaching and whenever I am playing, I'm always thinking to myself or telling people 70% is what you should be going out of power. So if 100% was you're swinging, if your life depended on it, as hard as you can, and 0 obviously being you're not swinging at all, the paddle's out of your hand. You want to be at about 70% with that drive because you're going to be more consistent, but also you're going to have enough power to be able to set yourself up for the next shot with that shot. Very rarely, if ever, do I go 100%. And the reason for that is if you do go 100%, your body tenses up. You're going to be extremely tight. And something with tennis is people that serve have the biggest serves in tennis have the most spaghetti arms or the most relaxed arms. And so if you watch them, the more relaxed you say as you serve, calm, cool, collected, you can still hit the crap out of the ball, but you're keeping that arm relaxed. You're going to get more power than if your arm is stiff and you're going 100%. So I like to say 70%. You can vary in between, 70, maybe a little bit higher to 80%. But you don't want to go much higher than that because you'll just become very inconsistent, and that little bit of extra power isn't doing much for you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I posted recently. I mean, I've learned over time, even if you can hit a crazy hard drive, it'll be inconsistent, but 2, what's your purpose for doing it? Because it's not coming as fast as a tennis ball, and you're also not able to put as much spin on it as a tennis ball. And so you're taking the high risk of maybe hitting that ball into the net or hitting the ball out. All they got to do is step aside. Or if they do make contact with the ball, they're still going to be able to block it. You're not hitting it over 100 miles an hour, Yeah. They still have, in most cases, time to react. But anyways, what I posted recently on Picklehead social media is to try to cause a pop-up from your opponent. Like you said, hit that ball about 70%, but keep the ball low. Try to get practice getting real close to the net tape. If you can keep it low at about 70% power, you can still cause a pop-up. They're not going to put that ball away. If it doesn't cause a pop-up, at least it gives you an easier fifth. So you can drive on the third. You're not hitting it 100%, risking going out for no reason. You're toning that power down a little bit, but you're trying to keep the ball low in an effort to either hit a better third or cause a pop-up that you can or your partner can poach and put away.
Yeah, it's placement over power. You're placing the ball over powering the ball. You power the ball, it's going to be inconsistent. You place the ball, it's going to be very consistent, and you're going to set yourself up. It's all about the placement on the body of the opponent.
Yeah, and when you play people with any type of tennis experience, which is a lot of people that actually play pickleball, I think it's fairly, I hate to say easy, but it's common for them to be able to block a drive or to counter a drive. That's already in their nature. They've already done that so many times. But when you put a drop on them, it's kind of a different story. That's not something they see very often in tennis. And so if you want to murder the ball at 100 miles an hour, a tennis player, one, is going to be able to counter that or block that pretty easily, but they're also going to be able to tell whether or not that ball is sailing out. So why take the risk of going 100% when you can get more done by keeping it low with placement and less speed?
Yeah, you're going to be so much more consistent with it. I think we covered that point well.
Let's go to the drop then. So 1 point with the drop, unless you had something else on the drive. Sorry.
Yeah, specifically with the drive, I guess there's 3 more things, but I don't know if we want to go into them here. You can always go watch the YouTube video. Okay. Yeah, so Another time that you would want to drive rather than drop is dependent on where your opponents are standing. So obviously when you're playing in a match, you're going to have, if you're serving, because we're talking about third shot drives and drops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your opponent is going to be standing back, and the other opponent's going to be up at the non-volley zone line. So when they return that ball, if sometimes when you get a good serve, which isn't very often, right? But when you get a good serve and you can kind of keep them back enough that they're not coming past mid-court, there's an opportunity to drive while they're in transition running forward. They haven't made it quite past mid-court is the gauge that I like to use, and then I'll drive that ball, and I'm trying to aim and get it at their feet. I'm not going 100% on the drive. It doesn't need to be fast. I don't even need to take it right off the bounce. I'm just taking it at its apex, driving the ball 70%, trying to get it at their feet, and then I'm transitioning into the net. Hopefully, your partner, and you guys have talked, which this would be a great thing to talk about before the game, is that if you ever see the person coming in late and the return comes to me, automatically run to the net because I'm going to set you up for a shake and bake because they're going to pop that ball up. If they don't pop it up, they're going to hit an incredible shot. Chances are, especially in the amateurs, if they don't pop it up.
And they deserve it. Let them have it.
Literally, yeah. It's going to be a winner. So,
yeah, they're not going to hit too many of those. That'll be tough. That also reminded me just in relation to the shake and bake, whether it's a solo shake and bake like we've talked about before, or it's your partner doing the baking or your partner poaching. It's nice to keep a lookout for that person. If you see that the player that's playing up at the non-volley zone, how would the camera see this? Backwards. So my team is serving, and our aim is to drive to the person that's deeper in the court. If you can keep them back. This person here that's up at the non-volley zone is probably going to look to poach that. And maybe they're not. But if you know this player and you've watched this player play and you know that they're prone to poaching, in that situation, that's where I kind of choke up a little bit and get a little bit nervous, to be honest, Oz. And then I'll just drop the ball because I'm like, or if I see them heavily poaching and they're going early, then I'll maybe aim for a drive down the line. But again, not 100% so it goes out, but like 70% right there. But in me personally in that situation, I don't know. I seem to tense up, and I'm like, I wonder if they're going to poach that ball. Yeah. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, so something that I would do in tennis is always the first game of every match when I was returning the ball, because the return is where you're going to do it. Whereas in pickleball, it's going to be on the third shot because that ball has to bounce. But the return, just know that I'm talking about the third shot. So in tennis, what I would do, very first point of the game, that I was returning the ball, I would burn the person down the line. I'll hit that ball down the line. If they cover it, then I know that they're not poachers. If they don't cover it, then they are poachers, and I just solved, which just to backtrack really quick, if they do cover it, I'm still in the point. They're not going to hit a winner off that shot. Okay, that's a difficult shot to hit. I can still, if in pickleball terms, I can still come in and hit a fifth shot drop. But and then I've solved the problem because now I know, okay, this guy's not a poacher. If they do cover it and I see them trying to if they don't cover it and I see them trying to poach the ball, I just hit a winner down the line. And so now the point's instantly over and I've solved a problem because that person's not going to poach again because now they're like, okay, this guy's just going to hit down the line this next shot, which the next shot I'm probably going to go cross court, chances are, on my third shot, which is what it would be in pickleball. So it solves that problem for you. And then after that, it comes down to changing it up. And literally the best place that you can go is up the middle on your drive, on your third shot. And the reason that you want to do that is because if this player that is up at the net poaches, they're going to overrun that shot, chances are, because they can see that their partner is still back there. So they're covering for their partner. So they're going to go on to their partner's side. So you go up the middle and they're going to overrun the ball a lot of the time. So in this situation, it's a great idea to then the next couple of times, if they keep poaching, go up the middle, or if they keep faking a poach, something like that, it'll set you up really, really well. So I would still go with the drive, because if they're putting pressure on you and you try to drop, it's really hard to not be stiff on that shot. I think you can set up a good fifth if you drive middle in that situation and keeping it low.
I think what we can learn from this too is to be that opponent that is looking to poach, to put pressure on your opponent more than anything else, and let them know, here, I'm gonna be able to put that ball away if I need to. Make them pause it up. Make them miss the shot, or another. Like you said, I do tense up in that situation, and then that causes my drop to not be as consistent, and maybe that's a pop up. So it can cause head games for a lot of people, which head games usually result in body games, if you call it that, because now your head just controlled your entire body.
Yeah.
You've tensed up, and you're not playing, your game. Anyway, now we kind of know what to do in that situation. What's another drive scenario?
Another drive scenario is if the ball is hit deep in the court, deep and high. I personally like to drive because, and now we can talk about it, is playing to your strength. My strength is my drive, right? I make buttholes pucker. You know what I mean? So my strength is my drive. So if it's high and deep or low and deep, I'm going to drive the ball. But for other players, it might be a good idea to drop the ball because their drop is stronger, right?
Yeah.
So it's playing to your strength. So that's another reason to drive. The last reason to drive is when your opponent hits heavy underspin. And the reason for that, and something that I see in amateurs all the time, is the opponent will hit heavy underspin, and then they'll try to drop the ball, and the ball goes right into the net. Mm-hmm. And that comes down to the ball spinning with underspin, right? So it's spinning towards them with underspin. So when it
towards
reaches
the person
them,
that hit it.
Yeah, so when it reaches them, it already has all the top spin that you need because it's coming towards you. Technically, as you hit, you're now hitting top spin. Hopefully that's not confusing, but if you guys just think about the spin, now as you as the third shot hitter, they already created top spin for you. So all you have to do on your drive is just literally think, I'm going to aim 3 feet. I like to use 3 feet higher than I normally would. And then that ball is going to go right over the net, right where you want it to. And I mean, drill it, figure out what number works for you. It might be 4 feet. It might be 2 feet, right? But once you figure out what that number is and people putting slice on the ball, you're going to have to aim higher to adjust. Whereas if you drop that ball, hit a drop on the ball and it already has all that spin, something that I see time and time again is the ball goes right into the net because it's really hard to gauge that drop with all that spin. The reason that I like to drive it is, first of all, because my drive is my strong suit, right? My strength, one of my strengths, but also because it's going to set me up for a fifth shot, either drive or drop.
Yeah.
Which usually it will be a fifth shot drop.
And another point, this is one of the main reasons that if me and my partner have decided that we want to shake and bake, like that's the game plan that we're going with, at least for a little bit, I will serve to the opponent's backhand, because typically when they return from their backhand, they're giving me backspin, or in other words, for me, it's topspin when I receive it. And don't hit that ball at 100%. You don't need to hit it 100% power. Just make sure you're hitting the sweet spot of the paddle. It already has spin on it, going the direction that you want it to go in. I didn't think about consciously aiming higher, but I guess I do that.
Yeah.
So that's a good. Really good point. I don't think about it consciously, but now that makes perfect sense to aim higher with that hit, give it about 70% power, and now you've hit a great drive, and hopefully you're setting up your partner. But yeah, anytime we're trying to shake and bake, I'm usually aiming in my serve for a way for them to either hit it short or to put for them to put slice on the ball so it turns into topspin for us.
If you've ever played against someone that has just a heavy slice return, have you?
Yes.
Like super heavy? I feel like everybody has. And I feel like that's what a lot of amateur players really struggle with, is when they all of a sudden play someone that has tons of spin on the ball. But if you can just learn this drive and drill this drive, get yourself a slinger bag and put the spin all the way to underspin, and then just hit these drives and figure out where you need to aim to get them, it's devastating for them, because now they're getting not just their own spin back, but they're also getting your spin back at them. So it's a really hard fourth shot to hit as the returner. So if you can figure that out, it's super difficult. There's a guy in town, Mason Ford, most disgusting of anybody I've ever played. Most disgusting backspin on the return. Super difficult. It comes in super low, and literally I'm aiming 5 feet over the net every time I hit it. But I've played him multiple times where he's like, okay, bro, you got to cover for me. He's talking to his partner, you got to cover for me.
Right.
Because I can't handle my own spin coming at me. When really all the solution was, hey, stop hitting underspin to me because I have it figured out. So if you guys can figure that out, you're going to have these two guys on the opposite side having a discussion like, hey, I need you to cover for me because I can't get to the net in time to be able to handle my own spin. It's literally just his own spin I'm putting back at him. So just remember to aim high.
And when you get to the pro level, I haven't gotten there, but I've heard multiple pros talk about this recently. They've gone away from a heavy backspin return because other pros have figured out how to use that to their advantage, how to use the spin that's already on the ball to their advantage, and they've gone away from it. If you watch now versus a year ago or 2 years ago, I mean, that's all it was heavy backspin returns. Whereas now you don't see it very much at all because they're able to take advantage of that. So
that's a good point. That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I wouldn't have thought of it, but I've noticed. And
that's why they've stopped doing it. I've only brought it up because I've heard pros specifically say that, and then I went and watched. I'm like, oh, I didn't put that together myself, but now I figured it out. Sharing it with you guys, hopefully that'll be helpful for you. But at the same time, if you're playing at the amateur level and anyone that you play with struggles with your backspin return, and it's consistent for you and it's working for you, and they haven't figured out how to use your spin against you, keep on doing it. But it might be a good idea to drill a little something different so that when you do come upon, those people that can return it well and use it against you, at least you have another weapon.
Another option, yeah. Good point. Yeah. So those are the 4 drive situations. It's if your opponents are coming in late, if the ball is short and high. What are the other 2? If you're... Should have written these down. Ball comes...
Deep and high.
Deep and high or deep and low.
Preference.
If your strength is your actual drive. Then there's one more, which we'll think of. I just can't think of it.
Okay. Short and high. Deep and to your strength.
Returners coming in late because you hit a great serve.
Yeah, they're struggling getting up to the net because of your deep serve.
Spin. We just talked about it for a literal 15 minutes.
There you go.
There's the art of podcasting right there. You just have a brain fart.
That's why I should write it down. Another thing to do, I mean, not necessarily write it down on pen and paper, but I'm going off on kind of a tangent here. But if you learn something in rec play, or if you figure something out, like I have aha moments all the time, maybe not all the time, but when I have aha moments, I'm typically kicking myself a few days later when I'm like, what was it that I figured out that day and I didn't put it in my phone? So if you do have those aha moments, take a second. It's just rec play. Take a second to just go put it in your phone real quick. Pretend like you're getting a phone call if everyone else is getting mad, and you won't regret writing that down because the best way to figure something out is, I would say, figuring it out the hard way. Just like in life, figuring it out the hard way is like the best way to learn, or can be. So anyway, write it down. I know you're not going to have pen and paper out there, but you're definitely going to have your phone with you. Just shoot yourself a quick text or make a quick note. Hey, this was an aha moment. I learned something here. That way you have it and you don't forget about it. It's like waking up in the middle of the night and you had like the best idea ever for a business, or you had the greatest idea for something, and then just going back to sleep. And then in the morning you're kicking yourself for not doing it.
Bro, this is so random, but you just brought to my memory. I had a dream the other night. My favorite holiday is Halloween. And I had a dream the other night of like the greatest Halloween movie ever. And it just came to me. And I'm like, I need to be a director. Like, this movie has to come out. So stay tuned for that. Maybe in a few years I'll be a director or something. But I was like, I would watch that movie. You know, like how you create a banger video and you're just like, dude, this is going to get so many views. Absolutely killer. I would watch this over and over again. And like sometimes you're watching your own video over and over again because you're like, This is baller. And then it gets 3 likes. It's probably going to end up being like that. The actors will be like Brad Pitt. He'll be in there. I'll have all the best actors, but it'll be just an absolute catastrophe. Total bomb. But I'll think it'll be amazing.
Now that reminds me, before we get to drops, so I had a dream. This is when I was fishing very heavily, bass fishing. Everyone's going to stop listening now because we're not talking about pickleball. But we're going to talk about drops in just a second. But this is a good one to share. I still love to fish. I just don't have as much time to do it. Anyway, sometimes when you're dreaming, you're in a state where you're not thinking properly. And I would say most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes I think that something is a great idea because I'm like out of it. And then when I finally wake up, I'm like, wow, that was dumb. So I had this dream. I was trying to figure out how to like be a better bass fisherman, like angler of the year. I don't know. I was just real into fishing at the time. And I had this dream that I invented a rod that had 2 reels, one on each side. Okay. And in my mind, it was the greatest idea on planet Earth while I'm sleeping. I'm like, 2 reels, I'm going to catch twice the amount of fish. And I woke up and I was like, started coming to. I'm like, okay, who can I share this idea with? And I'm like, wait, 2 reels? You can't even hold the rod. This makes 0 sense. They'd get tangled together. You can't do both. Like, worst idea ever, right? That's so maybe hilarious. It could be one of those ideas too. But anyway, if you get that aha moment when you're playing pickleball, just take a few seconds to note it.
And if you get it, story, write it down. Write
it down. Okay, drops. Situations to drop. I'm going to talk about one. This might be out of order. One situation for me where it seems like I have to drop instead of drive is when someone has a really good deep low return. For some reason, when it's deep and low, and I think it's this way for a lot of people, I could drive it and not put as much on it, but for me, I'm just so much more consistent if I just put the paddle out there and, if it's coming real fast, even just a dead drop, you know what I mean? Even if I can't put much topspin on the drop or underspin, but when it's deep with a lot of speed and low, I'm usually dropping in that situation just to make sure I can get it over the net, and hopefully that'll put us in a scenario where we can start working our way up.
So a lot of spin as in top or under?
Topspin usually is what gets me right there.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's when I would drop too. Because if it's underspin, I'm gonna drive personally. But I was wondering if you were different.
No, yeah, just topspin. I mean, now I'm giving away my secrets. But if somebody has a really good return after I serve, just hit it super deep and somehow keep it low with topspin. Open book, I'm dropping that ball the majority of the time. That's just all I can figure out to get it consistently over. I like to play it safe in that situation. I'd rather hit the ball over than not. I mean, that's another point we can get into. That's a whole nother podcast. But I would rather, in some situations where it's real difficult, where you're reaching or someone has a great return like that, you're always better off getting the ball over the net, doing what you need to do to get the ball over the net, than you are hitting the ball into the net or hitting the ball out.
Yeah.
In a difficult situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that point. I think if it's heavy topspin and coming deep for my game specifically, I'm going to drop that ball. But also, if the ball gets behind me, I'm going to drive it because I'm a lot more comfortable driving the ball if it gets behind me. But if it stays out in front of me with heavy topspin and is low, I think it's a great opportunity to drop. And then making sure that I'm dropping in the right location. I don't want to drop out wide anywhere. I want to drop up the middle to the middle backhand if there is one there. If you're playing a lefty and a righty, there's not going to be. But majority of the time, there will be a middle backhand to hit your drop to in that situation. You don't want to hit out wide at all. You might be able to get away with it in the league that you're in right now, but then you go up a level and all of a sudden people are just earning that left and right. So you don't want to get into that habit.
Yeah, just because you can get away with it doesn't mean that you should, or at least not long term.
Yeah.
But if you're just out there for fun, and I get that. I mean, a lot of people aren't looking to go pro, aren't looking to, I'm sure they're looking to get better in some way, but they just want to have some fun and chat, that's fine. But other than that, probably if you can get away with it, that doesn't mean you can get away with it at a higher level. So start working towards, something else. Well, what's another situation to drop?
Yeah, we've already covered it, but just to sink it in is when the ball is short in the court and low, we want to drop because we can only hit up. So we have to drop up. And then the whole point of the drop is that the drop starts going downward as soon as it hits the level of the net. It's a good way to think about it. As soon as it hits the level of the net, it's going up, up, up. As soon as it hits the level of the net, obviously we're not going to be exact, but we're trying to be. It's going to start going down from there. So it gets you a good kind of gauge to use. But you have to hit up, and then it's going to go down. Whereas if you drive, you can only go up, 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 up until it's past the baseline, and then it hits the fence, and then it goes down.
Yeah. I don't want to forget this point, so remind me, just say 2 nets in just a minute. But another point is fixing the problem first. So the problem, when somebody returns to me where it's deep, going back on this one, where it's deep with topspin and low, the best way to fix that problem is to fix your serve first. Serve to them in a way, either in a location or a speed to where they can't consistently just fire amazing returns that are deep and low back to you. If you see that they have a killer forehand, start serving to their backhand. See what that's like. Or maybe your serve might be a little too lofty, and you're giving them serves short in the court that they're able to just return it over there. So fix the problem before the problem occurs by working on your serve. Best way to work on your serve is to drill it over and over. There are drills like putting cones deep in the court so that you can do it. Work on power. Maybe you hit it into the net tape over and over until you finally find it where you can be consistently serving well. So anyway, there's that point. Fix the problem before. And then the other one I was going to say, in regards to dropping over the net, like you said, the purpose of the drop is so that they can't hit some high ball out of the air and smash the ball on you. I've done this drill previously, and I posted it recently. I'm coaching my wife because our wives are playing a pickleball tournament this coming weekend. We're pumped for that. They're going to play together. But anyway, I was drilling with her, and in helping her, let me say what her problem was first. Her drops were coming in too high and deep. And so I was able to really just put those balls away And so a way that I taught her is we brought a second net. I know not everyone has a second net. You can use a chair or something different. And I put it right in front of, I would say maybe 2 feet in front of the actual net. And I told her to aim at dropping over this first net. And so in doing that, her aim was closer to her. And she wasn't even missing balls in the beginning. I thought maybe she'd miss some and start hitting the net. But she was literally getting that ball just barely over the second net. There ended up being just perfect drops. For some reason, that really helped her depth perception. And I only know to do that because I did that for me, and that helped my drops a ton as far as depth goes. So you can either imagine that there's a net in front of the net and work on hitting it over that net. So that way, when you get over the net, it will start to drop. Anyone not watching this on YouTube, come check it out on YouTube. You can listen to the full thing on Apple and Spotify, but later check out. We'll have chapters and everything. You can check out this part. Just barely dipping over the net by either imagining or putting a net or something in front of the net so that they can be shallower and start dropping right as they go over the net.
I love that.
Anyway, that's helped me a lot. I think it can help a lot of people.
I think with that, another thing that you can do, so many people aim for the court or they aim for something on the court. It's aiming for something in the air. And that's something that I learned in my tennis years. I mean, well into my tennis years. I would be aiming for places on the court. But once I learned that you just aim for a place in the air, and you have that place memorized, 3 feet above the net, 2 feet above the net, then you're going to consistently hit the part of the court that you're looking to hit every single time. So it's the same. It's the same thing, just in a different way. Set up a chair, or just with your mind, picture a spot above the net to hit to, and then the ball will go where you want it to go.
You taught me that, and I just taught Whitney that this week,
nice.
And it's helped her a lot in relation to dinking. But I mean, it works for everything. I taught her, she was aiming for a spot in the court, and she had 2 problems with that. One, when she was aiming for a spot in the court, she wasn't watching the ball hit the paddle. And so I think it was causing some mishits. And then the other situation is, I think she was popping it up too much because she wasn't picking a depth over the net. You know what I mean? She's picking a location in the court. So she's like, yeah, I hit it to that location, but unfortunately, it's going like a rainbow to that location instead of, this depth over the net. So anyway, it takes a long time to get it completely fixed, but I think that helped her out a lot.
One shot that you told me the name of a long time ago, maybe podcast number 3 or something. You told me the name of the drip shot. Yeah. Mixture of a drop and a drive. You're going to be hitting heavy topspin. You're keeping the ball low. So you're aiming for a spot over the net that's low, but you're not hitting a ton of power on your drive. It's a drive and a drop mixed, but you're not hitting a ton of power on your drive and you're keeping the ball low. It's pretty devastating. I don't know. I just thought about it. But if you guys can learn that, there's a couple people that I know that have that shot down, and it's what they use for a majority of their drops. And it just makes your drop extremely offensive. Whereas if you're hitting these higher drops and trying to get them to drop over the net, those aren't going to be as offensive, but they're still going to be consistent. But if you can get that drip down for a majority of your shots, I mean, say a 5th shot where you've set up a good 5th shot, great opportunity to hit a drip, make it drippy.
Yeah, that consistent drip is tough to achieve, but when you could get to that point, it's a sick shot. It's super helpful, and it's just hard to defend. I mean, the main reason is it's just super hard to defend on the other end. So hopefully everyone's learned how to drive and when to drive, when to drop. You have anything else for the pod today, Os?
I think that's it.
Hats.
Other than this bad boy right here. Again, if you're not on YouTube, come look at this sexy boy. This is the Picklehead hat. All we've come out with so far is hats. We have shirts, but we've only given those to the pros that have come onto our podcast. So we are going to come out with shirts.
We're working on it. Yeah.
We're working on it. But get hats. I feel like everybody wears a hat while you're out playing. But these are in high demand. We've had so many people shoot us their emails to get them. We don't have a website fully set up yet. I've been working on the website. It's half set up right now, so it'll probably take me a couple of weeks with all the other stuff that I have to do. And then you guys will be able to order through there. But what we were going to say is if you guys want one now and you've already sent us your email, we're going to shoot you an email anyway. But if anybody else wants one that's listening now, shoot us an email with your Venmo, and we'll charge you on Venmo. We'll just keep it super chill, or Apple Pay or something like that. And then we'll just ship it out to you straight from our houses. And then you guys can have the hat. Represent Picklehead.
Yeah, it turned out pretty dope.
Yeah, I think they turned out better than I thought they would. I'm glad that we went with the PVC because it's shiny and it pops out of the hat. I was thinking of just going with the normal like threaded patch that you would get. I just don't think they look as good. They don't pop out as much. But
yeah, looks solid for sure. So I still don't have one. Austin and I are about 2 hours away from each other. This weekend I'll be able to see him in person, but just seeing it now and seeing some of the photos that you sent me, it's pretty sick. So yeah, if you want a hat, send us your email. If you've already sent us your email, shoot us your Venmo information and we can get you a hat that way. Other than that, we hope you learned a lot. Implement these things this week. We hope you're out there playing as much as possible. This is the most fun game in the world, sport, I should say. And let's see. Oh, one other thing. This weekend, PPA has a pro tournament here in Vegas. Come out and say hi. Austin and I will both be there. I don't know exactly when and on which days, but we'll definitely be there here and there. Feel free to come say hi, come take a pic. We appreciate all you guys listening, and we hope you have an awesome week.
Hey, what we were going to do, I think, is first 5 people. I think we're going to do 5. But first 5 people to come take a picture with us, post it on Instagram, get a free Picklehead hat. So if you're at the PPA in Vegas, you guys are already lucky to be there. Vegas is a fantastic spot. But come take a picture with us. Me and Spencer will be around right next to each other the entire time probably because, like you said, our wives are playing together. Yep. So if we're not, we're bad husbands. And, yeah, take a picture with us, post it on social media. Once you show us this post, we will give you a hat. But it's first 5. I think we should do first 5. Maybe we'll do first 10.
No, 5 is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
first
I think
5.
5 will be great.
First 5
But yeah, we'll be out there. Come and say hi. For everyone else that's not able to make it out there, shoot us your info. We're happy to send a hat your way, and you can represent the brand. So thanks, everybody, for listening.
I just came up with this. It's pretty bad. I don't think it's very good, but it could be a good quote. If you're playing a sucker, make them pucker. That's all I can say. If they're not coming into the net, they're a sucker. Make them pucker. Okay.
I think everyone just stopped listening after that one.
Yeah. Maybe not the best, but it just came to me, so I had to share it. All right, you guys are awesome. Thanks for listening.
Later.